You're tuned into Inside Lowell. Inside Lowell podcast brought to you in part by Washington Savings Bank, serving the greater Lowell community for over 130 years. Make the switch now to Washington Savings Bank. Reverie 73, Lowell's #1 cannabis shop. Elevate your cannabis experience at Reverie 73. Hafner's, heating and cooling homes and businesses for nearly a century. Hafner's, it kicks. And by Boston North Company, restaurant and retail solutions for your business. That's Boston North. And now, time for another Inside Lowell podcast. Inside Lowell. If Lowell is your home, this is your place.
Hello again, everybody, and welcome to another Inside Lowell podcast. I am your host, Teddy Panos, coming to you from the spacious, luxurious, and beautiful downtown Lowell studios of In Town Lowell. We thank everybody for joining us. Thank all of our sponsors as well. You heard Danielle's voice reading some of them off to you, but there are so many more. We'd have to do an entire podcast just to thank them, or we'll just do a podcast talking about their field of expertise, which we're just about to do. But before I bring in our guest for this podcast, I also want to thank you, our audience out there at Inside Lowell, whether you're watching one of our podcasts, reading our stories, following us on social media. You keep growing each and every day and keep contributing to the success and this local media entity. So thank you for being a part of all of it. Thank you, Mr. Real Estate Ray Boutin, for being a part of all of it as well. You were one of our founding sponsors way back in the day, back in September of 2022, before I even had a website to show off to you.
Sure.
Boy, you're a sucker. You fork your money over easily, don't you?
Yeah, I like you.
Oh, you make enough of it buying and selling houses that you...
No. I'm pretty frugal.
Yeah.
Pretty frugal.
Good to have you here.
Thanks for having me.
We're recording this podcast in early August of 2023, August 8th to be exact. Yeah. We're going to run it a little bit later, so folks won't see it for about a week before we run it.
Okay.
You're going to make it look like I've been working through my vacation, actually.
Oh, okay.
So yeah,
nice,
doing the Disney thing with the family. Maybe I'll check out some properties in Florida. I think people keep telling me it's the hot new place. So.
Well, it is hot. They do have a heat advisory right now, so good for you.
Yeah, when you're in a swimming pool, you don't care. We'll have some fun.
Yeah, sure.
We'll have some fun down there.
You will.
How's things with you? Speaking of hot, the real estate market, is it hot? Is it not? What's going on out there, my friend?
It's hot and it's not. So values, home prices keep increasing. So they keep going up in the Merrimack Valley area. But the number of sales is which is the big story. When you see the headline that sales are down, they are down anywhere from 30 to 40% year-over-year sales. So there's less sales happening now, but the prices keep ticking up. Not double-digit. You're talking single-digit, maybe 5-6% year-over-year for most markets, but there's just not enough inventory.
So what's going on out there for folks who don't understand? And it really is kind of classic supply and demand, but traditionally throughout history, you hear that sales are falling, and that means the prices are coming down with it. Prices are actually going up here in Massachusetts, and I think in New England in general, yes, even as those sales are plummeting. So what's the cause? How does that dynamic work?
So we have a diverse workforce here. We haven't kept up with our construction since 2008 at the last crash. Builders haven't been building 200, 300 lot subdivisions. There may be one or two where they used to have 10 or 20 between, let's say, Route 128, 95, all the way up to Concord, New Hampshire, within 10 miles of the highways. So you haven't kept up at 3% growth. You hear the 3% growth all the time. Think of all the kids that are graduating high school, the people that are graduating college, those that are starting families. We grow at about 3%. And that includes people that move out of the area and people coming in the area. So if you go 15 years without the 3% growth, and you've only been at 1%, you should be at 45% growth. You've only had 15% growth. Now you're at a deficit of that 30%. We haven't been building enough properties.
Why? Why are we not building? If the demand is there, if you said we got 3% growth, we should see a 3% increase in housing creation. We can sit there and then dissect whether that's affordable, market rate, whatever, but you need 3% growth in the number of homes built. So why aren't builders building these homes?
Well, they got hurt. They got hurt pretty bad after 2008. And it doesn't go a straight line for builders up 3% every year. You could have 6 or 10% in 2004 and 2005, and then you can have zero or negative. You could have housing loss in 2008, 9, and 10. So there's different dynamics here. It's not always a straight 3%, but think of the builders who had to go bankrupt, who went into foreclosure. They had to restart, they had to rebuild, and they couldn't rebuild doing 200 houses in a subdivision. They may do 5 houses, 10 houses. At that point, because the market is tight and the cost of land is so expensive, and now the cost of materials is so expensive, they're not building those first or second time home buyer homes, anything that's under, let's say, 2,000, 2,300 square feet in the Merrimack Valley, let's say.
I have not seen anybody build a new 3-bedroom, 1-bathroom, maybe 1.5-bathroom ranch. And
No.
I can't tell you the last time one was built, right? That's gone.
Same here. You don't see that. So that housing stock is being taken up. The other change that you've seen, and if you were to look at the graph of the cost of rental housing in the Merrimack Valley, you would see the spike in prices, spiking at or even more than what home prices have gone up. So for somebody to spend $2,500 a month for a 3-bedroom, 4-bedroom house or large apartment, they can now go out and, if they can afford that, they'll pay an extra $500, maybe $3,000 for their mortgage to own their own home. So the values are creeping up, but the prices of apartments are up. And it's not just subsidized apartments. It's that 3% growth that we've had since 2008. Those people need places to live. What I have seen in maybe 20% of the marketplace is somebody that's making great money and they rent a 2-bedroom apartment and just them, single person in it. So they're taking up housing stock. And I don't think until we get layoffs that the inventory is going to shrink by people going back to live with their parents, maybe getting a roommate where they didn't want one. And I don't see it happening right now. And, if you look back in 2004, 2005, I thought the crash would have already came back then because people were getting no doc loans. You breathe on a mirror. If you're breathing, they'll give you whatever you want to borrow, 100% financing. We don't have that now. Most people who are buying are putting some money down that they've saved, more solid housing. So until there's layoffs and significant layoffs, I'm not sure our housing market is going to crash as some people think.
You keep saying layoffs. By the way, if I sound more clear now, it's because I finally turned my microphone up. I believe your microphone picked me up enough that we won't have to start over again.
Oh, wow.
But we're going to plow through and see if we can pick it up. But have we reached the saturation point? In terms of land, you said land is expensive. That usually comes from a scarcity of land. Again, supply and demand. If there isn't that much land to build on, especially in older, more populated cities like a Lowell, like a Lawrence, Haverhill, Boston, etc., it gets more expensive. Are we at a saturation point here?
Are you talking just Lowell or the Merrimack Valley?
Lowell, but also expand that out throughout the entire region.
Sometimes because I live in Lowell and I'm around people from Lowell, we are Lowell centric. That everything has to do with Lowell, and we have to remember that we have 6 New England states. And if anybody has traveled anywhere, say you drive out to Worcester, you're on the highway, you're going to see vacant land all along there. The difficulty we have is septic systems and not having the infrastructure by town sewer, town water, that we can build on some of that land. So for Lowell, for example, you have over by Lowe's, they put in maybe 2, 3, 4 years ago, maybe it could be 5, a big building of rental units. So that makes the investment worthwhile for the real estate investment trust, REITs, as they call them, that they say we're going to put in 80 units, and we're going to rent them. Here's the rental amount. We're going to make 13, 14, 15% return on our investment because the rental rates are so high. It's more profitable for them to do something like that than build 80 3-bedroom, 1-bath ranches on land that is so expensive. Mm-hmm. So when you go outside of Lowell, we do have communities that surround Lowell that have some land, but when you go out to those areas, they have 1 or 2 acre zoning, and that makes it difficult to find available land. And it brings back the MBTA
zoning
that they're going to have,
and blah, blah, blah.
ADUs, we can get into that later if you want, but they're surrounding us. Every community around Lowell has ADUs, tweaked a little bit differently, and they all work very well. I've seen them in action, being an appraiser for 30 years now, selling real estate for 30 years. It hasn't hurt one of their communities overall if you look at them. Anecdotally, there could be one instance of one person that was a bad in-law, but I don't know. I think everybody has a bad in-law in their family. So
Not me, not at all.
you're blessed.
To underscore everything that you talked about to this point, I called up some stats. Mass Association of Realtors reports that the number of homes on the market in May, just 3 months ago, was the lowest since they began keeping records in 2004. So basically in 20 years, the fewest amount of homes available for sale in May. So that means it is 110% a seller's market out there, right?
Absolutely. In June, the Northeast Association of Realtors, which is Greater Lawrence, Greater Lowell, Littleton, a couple other towns, further out west of us, we're down 57% housing stock year over year. So the inventory available is down 57%. So yeah, that's unbelievable. When you think a year ago, things were tough. It's even worse now. What I am finding is there are less buyers out there. They've gone, a lot of buyers have said, you know what, forget it. I'm just going to go rent and wait for the prices to come down. I just don't see it happening right now. I think when people are waiting for interest rates to come down, all that's going to do is drive prices even higher. Because nobody comes to me and will say, I want to buy a house for $483,000 to buy. They come and they say, I can afford a mortgage of $3,300, $2,500, $2,700, principal, interest, taxes, insurance. So once the interest rate goes down, it gives people more buying power. They'll bid higher.
And unfortunately, as you said, until there's a financial collapse that leads to layoffs, this dynamic is not going to change, which, by the way, makes it very important. The last podcast that we recorded, and you can go find it out there as well, Inside Real Estate, on our YouTube channel or our audio podcast channels, and of course on our website as well, InsideLowell.com, we talked about what you need to do to deal with this market, the realities of this market. Buyers and sellers, there's certain things you can do to make sure that you're getting the optimal value, whether you're buying or selling. So a lot of points there. We're not going to rehash them now, but go check out that podcast at some point. One of the things that we do want to talk about, though, regarding that is, here it is, it's August, okay? Somebody may not be watching this till the end of August or September or whenever. The landscape changes, literally, right?
Yeah, good segue.
We go from summer and green and beautiful weather to fall and dead-looking trees and leaves and eventually snow and whatnot. So the number one tip you have for folks watching this podcast right now, if they're thinking, I may sell my home at some point in the winter or next spring, what do they need to do, Real Estate Ray Boutin?
Take some photos. Take some photos, folks. Take photos if you have a pool, without your family there, without the little kids in it, without your spouse in a bathing suit who's going to be mad because it's going viral when you're trying to sell it next year. Seriously, take some. So many times I've gone to houses and say, oh, we have this beautiful landscape. And they'll show me a picture, but it's a family photo, with everybody in it. Let's take some pictures of your house now when everything's in bloom, everything looks good, the pool is crystal clear, it's bright, it shows that you have that
You're probably not going to have greener grass than you've had this summer.
For sure.
Hell, even I have green grass, and it's coming into places that didn't.
Oh, that's good. That's good. I knew that was a struggle. Now, nice. But you're right. So taking some of those photos, please, when I'm going to demonstrate by showing you with my phone, take your photos the long way. Because if you ever notice when in MLS, when an agent takes their photos this way, that's how you do selfies, but it doesn't fit in MLS. So when I put them into MLS, I want them the long way. Old fashioned. Think of the Progressive commercial, right? Be your parents.
Listen, we all have phones and they all have phenomenal cameras. Yes. It's amazing how good the cameras are on the phone. But there's nothing like having a professional photographer who knows how to stage a photo, knows exactly how to, I don't want to say crop out what shouldn't be there, but their eye can see things that they know. So that's one of the services that you offer all of your clients as well, right? And you highly advise it?
Absolutely. I will tell people, they'll tell me, don't bother. And I pay for this as part of my commission. I will hire the photographer to come in and take the photos. If you want a professional photographer, I can recommend some people to you that will take your outside photos now. And this can help you if you're thinking of selling over the winter, so people can see what the property actually has. You're proud of your house. There's a reason you bought your house. Help me to help you tell others why it's such a great property. And if you have a family friend that's going to list the house, or a niece or a nephew that doesn't have any experience and doesn't have a photographer, you can still call me. I'm willing to help anybody. No problem at all. What
if I'm living somewhere up in north? We're crossing the border into New Hampshire. You got some hills, some mountains, close to the ski or lakes areas. In a case like that, do you want to kind of see what's better scenery, the snow over the bucolic hills, or do I want to see the green and brown?
Both.
Take both.
Anytime you have an asset like that somebody's, mountain views, or, it could be views of Gunstock Mountain, and you can see the trails in the summer and in the winter, you're going to appeal to a lot of different people. So drone photography is really nice. If you have one of those views that you can just go up a few feet, 20, 30 feet up in the air to look, that people can see, boy, this is an estate type property, or it's a nice property, or you abut the state forest in Drake at Tingsboro or Lowell, or you're near one of the national parks. That's an important thing to have too. So I would strongly recommend taking both, so that somebody that's buying your property can see where their family memories are going to be made, because that's kind of what you're selling, is future memories for that next family.
Are snowshoe trails a good selling point for?
Would you love something that had snowshoes, Teddy? Something tells me no.
I don't want people.
But I would enjoy that, because I love the treadmill. But so snowshoe trails mean, okay, I'm out and there isn't people right on top of me, and somebody may like that, or somebody that's from the city goes, I don't want to be that far out. Yeah. I think it's a plus.
All right. Is there a difference between the residential market and the commercial market? Because you just last month you sold a commercial property.
I did.
Drake it, if I recall correctly, right? How is that holding up versus the still red hot residential market?
So commercial market is more about numbers and sterile. Most people are buying commercial properties based on the income that it generates. I have a place for my business. People that buy homes, not just houses, but homes, condos, homes for themselves, are looking at properties that their family's going to live in. They're looking for that security. There's a desire there. There's more emotion when you're buying a residential property. When you come to selling commercial real estate, or working with somebody who's buying commercial real estate, it all comes down to the numbers. That's really what it comes to. I'm selling a 7-unit in Westford right now that's for sale, listed in Westford for $1.4 million. A first-time home buyer is not going to come in with 3.5% down and buy this property. Sure. This is something an investor comes in, looks at the rents, looks at the price, looks at the interest rate that they're currently paying, and saying, yes, I can make this work. No, I can't, or I can make it work if I do X. So it's a little bit more aesthetic and standoffish. As far as the price points on them, as I mentioned, single-family homes are still going up. Your expansion homes that I talk about, that third time, something that may be 2,800 square feet or above in, Lowell, out of Belvedere, Upper Belvedere, Upper Highlands, Drake it up on top of Christian Hill. Those aren't selling as quickly. Drake it, let's say, over the 850, 900 mark. Those are taking a little bit longer to sell. The Lakes region, summer homes, have slowed a little bit. You're not seeing the huge leaps that you saw, buyers coming in, sight unseen, cash buyers buying waterfront property up there. So that's more of an investment, though, those higher properties. Commercial has been hit for a couple of reasons. They got hit because of the interest rates going up, and then they got hit because a lot of people are working from home now. When you think of commercial, though, think the 4-unit property that I just sold where More Than Here Day Spa is. And they're still open. They're open for at least another year. Guiding Light Dance Studio's open. Miguel's School of Music is still open. There's still tenants there now.
Where I took my accordion lessons.
You too?
Used to be
right up the street from you.
in Lower Centerville.
Yeah. Oh, really? Okay.
So there is a difference between the big commercial office buildings, which that market's in trouble.
Commercial office buildings, yes, because everybody has not come back to work. So many of these office buildings, and you're going to see over the next year, those have to refinance with the banks. And I think you're going to see some bumps in the road. I don't know how bad it's going to get. You might see another similar to Silicon Valley Savings Bank, the issues they got in. Banks that have loaned money to those commercial office buildings may take a hit. I don't know if they're prepared enough for that. What's coming? But
you generally don't dabble in that. You deal like the old Elks in Lowell, which
that was only 1.8 million.
That was an easy sale. You did the old George's.
That took me longer than you.
Yeah. Yeah, it was also a lot more worth it than me.
I don't know about
that. You did
that.
The George's Cafe, the one you're talking about in Drake just now as well. So those are still in the one commercial unit, 2 or 3 commercial units.
Yeah, those are smaller end, user specific. Most people that buy these properties are going to be owner occupants, and that's the other part you look at when you're selling commercial real estate. Typically, the More Than Here Day Spa property would have been a user occupant. It wasn't in this case. The person was happy with the tenants that are there. At some point, they may do something with the building, but right now they're happy just having that. Your larger office buildings are usually bought by real estate investment trusts to rent out.
So lots to consider still in buying, selling homes, commercial properties. I am going to drag you into the ADU discussion because by the time people get to watch this, it still will not have been decided.
Oh, yes, it will.
But
tonight,
I don't think it's going to be decided tonight. I think procedurally they have to go back to.
You're right.
Because they made the amendments. I've seen the charter.
Okay.
And they'll have to go back to that. So there's at least another 7-day waiting period, which means 2 weeks from 14 days. But for folks who are still kind of watching this and are a little confused by all the different factors, this is why it's important to have a guy like you. You've got over 30 years experience now buying, selling homes, commercial properties. You also have 30 years of experience appraising them. Sure. You're also a certified appraiser as well, which comes invaluable in deciding what the market is going to be for your property. How do folks get a hold of you if they want to get a hold of you?
Please give me a call. Ray Boutin, 978-502-8352. Ray Boutin, 978-502-8352. Or visit my website, and I thank Teddy Panos for creating this, realestaterayBoutin.com.
All right. I can't have a podcast or interview with you without dragging you into some political discussion. Okay,
sure.
The ADU debate. You've seen it play out now.
Right.
Another month and some change since we last recorded. Mm-hmm. You're a proponent of it. You think that ordinance is going to help?
Yes. I'm pro ADU, and I like the ordinance. Is it perfect? No. But don't let that be the enemy of the success of getting ADUs in the community.
What do you say to allay the fears of people who think it will destroy the value of their home, will destroy the character of their neighborhood? What do you say to these folks?
First, I ask you what you mean by character. We've changed. When you say character, things are changing. I have more tenants, more college students in my neighborhood. I live in Pawtucketville. It works out fine. The kids wave hi. They're clean. If there's ever an issue, you call the landlord, you call Lowell Police, UMass Lowell Police, and it's cleaned up. There haven't been those issues that I've seen any worse than my neighbors, who I have a neighbor, and every Friday and Saturday night, they have people there till 12, 1 o'clock at night. And they're not college students, believe it or not. So the neighborhood's changing, so the character is changing. I'm old. I'm 57. I'm not going to be up till 12, 1 o'clock. They're young. They're having fun.
Thank you for putting it. That's something that and I'm with you. I'm 57. And I hear this argument, and look, there's a little validity to it. We bought our house in this neighborhood for this reason. Well, that's great, except you can't control who your neighbors are going to buy and sell their home to, and who moves in and whatnot. So your neighborhood character is going to change. I remember the house I grew up in Drake, and we were in a quiet neighborhood with some young kids, dead-end streets, and then all the kids disappeared for a while and it became more quiet. But now I drive to visit my dad, and I do something at the house for him, and I see the young kids back out in the yards playing, riding the bike. So neighborhood character is something that always changes. And yeah, because as you said, population does grow every single year. More houses are going to get built. So every neighborhood has changed significantly over the last 30 years.
If you want that same person living in your neighborhood and not selling it to a younger person who's going to have kids and is going to stay up late on Friday and Saturday night, or is going to rent it out, then allowing an ADU would allow them to have a family member move into them, or maybe they move into the ADU and their children, relatives, niece, nephew moves in with their kids, and that person is still in your neighborhood. But what's happening is you have to spend between $8,000 and $12,000 to go before the Zoning Board of Appeals to be told maybe or no. So you spend that money and then you can't get an ADU. All they're asking for is it to be by right. And let me tell you, folks, I've been appraising in Lowell. I think I started in Lowell in 1993 or 93, appraising houses in Lowell. The majority of homes that are owner occupied in Lowell can't have an ADU in the first floor. It's just not going to work, because if you have 1,000 or 900 square feet, you're not going to divide that up to a kitchen, living room, bedroom, and then have a kitchen, living room, dining room on the other side. You won't have enough room. If you want to expand out, you still have lot line requirements. And that's what people are trying to muddle the waters and say, oh, they're going to expand out to my edge of my house. They can't. You have setback requirements, at least minimum of 5 feet.
Stop bringing fear and rationale into an emotional subject.
So go to every other community around Lowell.
Let me play devil's advocate here and try to be fair to the folks who say, well, Lowell isn't like other communities and whatnot. It's smaller. There's less land. We're already overcrowded, etc. What do you say to allay those fears? You had a smile on your face as I looked up at you. What do you say to allay those fears that what's working in Salem or Dracut or wherever can't possibly work in Lowell because we're already overcrowded, and look at all the street parking that already exists?
We put a building up with, I think, over 100 units over by Lowe's. Nobody ever said, oh, what's it going to do to the neighborhood? You've got more buying power.
A few people did. There were a few.
There's a few good. And then what happened? The 99's busier. Different places are busier. It happens. This is going to happen no matter what. So instead of having 7 or 8 people living in a single family, you have 7 or 8 people that are living in an ADU and a single family home. And if it takes somebody to rent out to their niece, their nephew, their grandchild at rent $1,000 a month or $500 a month, and that helps pay the taxes or maintenance for the property, it's going to keep up the house. You're going to keep it nice. And that person gets to stay living in Lowell. You're pushing people away. And I've witnessed it. I've dealt with it. People that couldn't stay in Lowell because they can't do ADUs here.
And the other dynamic that you have to think, these 3-bedroom, 1-bath or 1.5-bath ranches, these are the houses in those neighborhoods that, they're going to be the starter homes. So your younger, larger families, your immigrant groups, which tend to have larger families to begin with. I know my father came here with, 6 siblings with my grandparents, et cetera. So these are the people that are starting to populate. So as you said, these ranches, these starter homes already have 7 or 8 people living in them. Expand it out a little and, get a couple of people out of the home. I don't see it necessarily being the issue. I agree with you. I think it's much to do about nothing. And to me, the real battle is going to be when the movement comes to try to eliminate single family zoning throughout the state. And you will have, trust me, Lowell, Massachusetts, you will have no say unless you start paying attention to how you vote.
And that's 100% the point. This is something you're allowing Lowell residents to do. Remember the term, your castle is your home is your castle? Why am I being dictated about who I can have live in my house with me? Is it fair to somebody that meets later in life, they're both widowers, they're in their 60s, and the wife owns the house and the husband moves in, and his older brother wants to come live in an in-law, and you say, well, no, you're not related. We're going to make you get married. That's not fair. That's not right. Look, this can work in other areas. We can try it, and it can work.
And also,
very confident.
It can be adjusted, right? After a year, after 2 years, if you see what works and what doesn't, it can be adjusted.
Sounds like you can't, but I would think you could. So, yes, you can, of course.
All right. Real Estate Ray Boutin, always with new properties coming on the market, but they do sell quickly. So if folks are interested in buying or selling a home, how do they get a hold of the guy who's the guy to contact in
Please
Lowell?
give me a call, Ray Boutin. I'm at 978-502-8352, Ray Boutin, 978-502-8352, or visit my website, realestaterayBoutin.com.
Look at that. He even knows to look at the right camera. I don't know how to look at the right camera or turn on a microphone.
There you go.
Let's hope when I go back and hear the recording of this, the first couple of minutes are loud enough and we don't have to redo it.
Oh, yeah.
All right. Real Estate Ray, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
All right. And thank you for joining us as well here at Inside Lowell. As we like to say, if Lowell is your home, Inside Lowell is your place. Till next time, stay safe, everybody.